All right, let's start with the NASDAQ. Not much has changed in this shorter week that we had. We did have a spike up on the fact that the memorandum of understanding was going to be signed, and then a spike down on the hawkish tone of the Fed, only to be rebounded. So it gave it back, so which kept us in this tight range. I want you to note that once we were above this all-time high anchored VWAP, that's where it found support, even on the strong drop of the Fed announcement. So we're going to probably sit in this box if we have increased optimism. We're going to break above 31,000, but I still contend that this is our potential top, depending on how the market makers see it. We could be trapped between this all-time high and 31,000 for a period of time as markets may be hitting exhaustion. Again, and if we have anything catastrophic happen, this run from March 31st on up, the anchored VWAP is my target for a discount in around 28,000. The S&P 500 SPX, same thing, gap up on optimism, sell off on Fed news, and then recovered. And we closed above that all-time high anchored VWAP. So we're probably going to be trapped between the all-time high anchored VWAP and the all-time high itself at 76.22. Again, and perhaps exhaustion. The Russell 2000 is sitting in around 3,000 in this box that I drew months ago, or weeks ago, I should say. We did close. I don't know if you can see. Let me zoom in a little bit. The all-time high anchored VWAP, we did close above that. So all three major indices, the NASDAQ, SPX, and Russell, closed above the all-time high anchored VWAP, which is positive, even though we have overhead resistance. So we're going to see after this long weekend and with the news catalyst that there's a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, if that pushes markets higher into these resistance points, but it'll take volume to break them. Quick look at Bitcoin. So let's look at Bitcoin. As called, 59,000 to 60,000 was support, and it bounced off that. Again, I think it's still support. I'm not a buyer here, just showing where you could do a short-term trade. We're looking at 50,000 as a cycle low, 48,000 to 52,000 cycle low in October. So I think there's more downside here. Looking at oil, folks, I said that if the war ended, right, well, I said this all-time high anchored VWAP, which is indicated by this red line, would not break until the war ended. And the war, a memorandum of understanding occurred, and we broke down in it. So that is now resistance. And we have this gap of support, the gap from the war below us, between 66 and 70, where price is more than likely going to head to. I don't think we break that. It's going to take some time for all this and the supply chain tension to release, but that's more than likely where oil is headed, down between 67 and 70, where we'll probably comfortably sit for a duration of time before we get back to pre-war pricing in the mid 50s. Google is at or about the same price. We talked about it last week as a buy off of this runs anchored VWAP. You see, this was the run that matched the March 30th run in the markets, and it's just tapping that. So perhaps this is the upper limits of the buy zone at 357. As a buy for Google, I think Google's going to be a big winner at the end by the end of the year. So you can consider buying in Google in around this price, especially if you're anticipating positivity in the market. So buying in between 357 and 360, you can use a stop loss below market structure on this wick of $13 and try to chase it back up to all-time highs. That's a 1 to 3.5 risk reward ratio, targeting $47. I would recommend that once you clear market structure, price gets around 373 to 375, you go break even on your stop loss so that you zero risk the trade. Microsoft is still trending downwards. We are targeting 320, 322. We do recognize that there'll be support in around 350 to 360 where it may turn, but this right now is a no-go. Wait, and then buy the discount, and we will monitor it. BBAI is currently in the $4 buy zone, give or take 50 cents there. And the same trade plan that paid out before seems to be where market makers and buyers are buying in between that 350 and $4, and that trade plan still stands. If you're buying in around this range, you use market structure previous low at about $3 or just under 295 as your stop loss and chase it to the all-time high at 564. Otherwise, you wait until it crosses over that and then buy that for confirmation. I have an alert set down around 275 in case price gets down there because that's very interested in me fundamentally for a discount. That is BBAI currently in the $4 buy zone.